live from the University of Nebraska at Kearney. It's the weekly Allowance where real-world knowledge is discussed. Your future is what matters, and the broke college student is no longer the status quo. Young or old, don't put your future on hold. We welcome you to the show. I'm your host, Luke Grossenklaus, joined by co-host Austin Partridge. Austin, how's it going today?
It's going great today. Feeling really good. Obviously, we're doing a fun show today, a Christmas special, if you will. Those of you tuning in on Facebook Live are in for a treat. So Luke and I are dressed up like Santa and an elf right now. Definitely in a little bit different costumes here, but no, it should be a fun show. And a little side note here. So I found that I have a new passion over the past 2 weeks, and those of you who have been following this Bitcoin hype, I certainly have, and I've just been doing so much research on the subject, and I'm just completely hooked on it, and so just really been following that, and that's my new passion I have. So, but sidetrack there. How are you doing today, Luke?
Oh, pretty good. You know, I want to say on the air live that Tiger Woods is back officially, and it's been a good last couple days for me. He's playing pretty good golf at the Hero World Challenge in the Bahamas, but fun doing that, and it'll be a fun weekend, kind of starting off the Christmas festivities here with the radio show. But we got a few Christmas parties coming up this weekend that are going to be pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to, and then we're going to hit Dead Week and Finals Week pretty hard.
Yeah.
But feels good to be Santa. Feels good to have an elf along here with me today. And it should be a pretty festive show. So why we are dressed up as Santa and an elf is because we're doing a Christmas special today. We are talking everything Christmas, whether it's creating your Christmas budget or buying presents or hanging up decorations, or maybe it's Black Friday shopping, Cyber Monday, which was last week, but whatever it may be, we're talking all things holidays and the upcoming new year today. So that's why we're dressed up a little bit festive in the studio today. So we're looking forward to it. And we wanted to start off the first 15 minutes of the show with just creating a budget for Christmas and how much money should you spend on Christmas, how much does the average family spend on Christmas, what does that look like, and what all goes into your Christmas budget, because it can get a little bit pricey during the holiday season. And so first and foremost, I just want to say that it's perfectly okay to spend extra money around the holidays. I think that's one of the reasons the holidays come is to have fun and to really live it up with your family. But you don't want to spend too much to where you're having unwelcomed credit card debt or going into debt for the amount that you're spending. And that's why we believe that you need a Christmas budget. And the thing is, a lot of people do create a Christmas budget, but according to Fool.com, only 58% of families actually fail to stick to their Christmas budget. So we want to talk to you a little bit today about how to make that Christmas budget and how to stick to it.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to start to break down this article, and we've kind of came up with an article here by Dave Ramsey, and I know if you're an avid listener of the show, obviously we cite him a lot, but you know, he's a pretty bright guy, and his strategies and his teachings have really been shown to work. I encourage you to go and Google and YouTube some of his debt-free screams. They're really impactful, and so you know, I thought this was a really interesting article for so many different reasons, and kind of a preview of it. Obviously, the holidays are all about giving, right? And that's one of the reasons why Luke and I want people to be budgeting throughout the year so that they're able to have the ability to go out and give and make an impact in someone's life when it comes to that time. But you know, we also understand that the holiday season is gonna force you to spend a little bit more money and buy presents for those of you that you love, and that's exactly why you need to have a Christmas budget. I think that's so important. That's the reason behind having one, and not to take the fun out of the holiday or anything like that, but simply to make sure that you're in a position to be generous.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. With giving is one of the best things that you can do over the Christmas holiday and over the new year, and by creating a budget you have a lot of open room to give a lot more as well. So we'll dive into this article a little bit, and the first thing it's going to touch on is first creating your Christmas budget and how to go about that. If you've never created a Christmas budget before, it can be a little bit daunting at first, but I would say the first thing that you need to do is to look at what you spend on Christmas in an average year. Look at what you spent on your Christmas last year. Did you think you spent too much on Christmas? Did you think you didn't spend enough? And once you look at kind of what your budget looked like in the last previous years, then maybe adjust it accordingly to kind of what your expenses are looking like and kind of what you want your Christmas budget to look like, and go from there. But there is a point where, I mean, I'm in college still, and I buy a few presents for family and stuff, but there's a difference between being a college student and maybe being an adult and buying more Christmas presents for people. So if it's your first year, maybe on your own, and maybe being an adult and making that a good salary to where you can buy some good gifts for all your family members, your Christmas budget may be different there as well, but just adjust it a little bit according to your income and kind of what you've spent in the previous years as well.
Yeah, so Luke and I have already discussed budgeting on a prior show, and so we won't dive into the details too much about budgeting, but just a reminder, we do recommend a zero-based budget. So what that means is you want your budget to be zero at the end of each month, and to just be allocating all of your categories so that you're giving, you're saving, you're spending, and things like that, so that budget will equal zero at the end of the month. And I like how Dave refers to really analyzing your existing budget here. I think there's always areas in your budget that you can free up if you try hard enough and if you search hard enough. I know going out to eat is a major expense in a lot of people's budget, and so I would just recommend try to cook a few more meals at home, and not just because it's healthier for you, but because you can really save a lot of money that way. And then once you do find that free money in your budget, go ahead and just simply allocate it towards your Christmas budget, and it's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's a process that you can do all throughout the year, really. It doesn't just need to take place in December or November if you're looking to create that budget. I would say if you can find $100 in your budget somewhere every month that you can save up, minus your normal expenses, if you can find that $100 and save it up for 11 months coming up to Christmas, January through November, I think you can have $1,100 saved up, obviously, and then that can be a pretty good Christmas fund for you and your family. So it doesn't all need to be in 1 or 2 months. It can be a little bit of money at a time all throughout the year to build that Christmas fund, which makes it a little less daunting of a task when you look at it from a broad spectrum. The next thing you're going to need to do is, I would like to divide your Christmas budget into categories. So we know that I think the biggest thing we think of when we think of a Christmas budget is presents. And obviously those are probably going to be more of the expensive part of your Christmas budget, but there's a lot of different things that go into it, of the decorations, the lights on the house, the Christmas tree, the decorations inside, wrapping paper, your travel expenses if maybe you're going out of the state to see family, cooking, maybe charitable donations that you're making, and really anything else. So it really helps when you can break these things up into maybe you have a decorations category, you have your presents category, you have your cooking and your travel, whatever it may be, so you can really break that down into how much you're spending in each category there. And I would even take it a step further and start to break it down even to the gifts for certain people and how much you're spending on certain people, so you know kind of what you've done in the past there as well. But once you figure that out, it kind of breaks it into a bigger sense of how much you spend in each area.
You want to be spending the most on the girlfriend, right? Yeah, but so I think once you begin to analyze your expenses really on this kind of individual basis, I think it starts to seem a lot more feasible to stick to your budget. And it also helps to feel, you don't feel as overwhelmed as you maybe would if you're just going out and kind of trying to figure out all this stuff in your head. You actually have it on paper on purpose, and so that you're able to track these expenses and really just make a simpler time and make it easier for you.
Mm-hmm. And I would say once you break your budget down into the different categories and you figure out really how much you'll need for each category, then that's when you know how much cash you need to start saving. So the sooner you can break out those categories, the sooner you'll know how much cash you need, and the sooner you'll have all that organized as well.
Mm-hmm.
The next step, I would say, is write down who you need to buy gifts for. I think that's the biggest thing about Christmas, is who to buy gifts for and who not to buy gifts for, and where is that going to even out. Because I think for us as college students, probably our main crowd is a lot of college students. We don't always buy gifts for all of our family members, maybe not even all of our friends, whoever it may be. You may have a girlfriend. I know we kind of mentioned that. You may have maybe a few brothers or sisters you want to buy gifts for, and then maybe your parents. I know a good thing for maybe brothers and sisters to do, they combine together and buy their parents a few big gifts and kind of go in on it together. I've seen that before. I know good things are like gift exchanges with your friends, so you just draw names out of a hat and then maybe you only have to buy a gift for one of your friends. Same thing with relatives. I've seen gift exchanges there where everyone just chooses a number and you get to correspond with that number that you line up with and buy a gift for them. So those are kind of good ways to work around it, but just kind of decide how much money you want to spend on gifts and who you all want to spend gifts on. So if you have kids, and other relatives, cousins, aunts, uncles, maybe your coworkers, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it may be. Just make sure you have all those names written down and kind of what gift you want to get them so you know how much you're spending on each person.
I like how you mentioned, we should write down who we want to get our gifts for and also write the dollar amount. And I just want to communicate across to our viewers that in no way, indicates how much value or how much we care about that person. If we're going to go out and spend $100 on our girlfriend, but we only spend $50 on our mom, what does that say about us? No, it doesn't say, that you shouldn't be, allocating dollar amounts for value. You should really just be, wanting to give to everyone, but really taking a pragmatic approach to see, we're in college right now, and we really, we don't have a steady income coming in, and we need to be realistic about how much we can spend for each person that we love.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point of if you're young, if you're in college, or even if you're out of college and you're still working on getting out of debt, and you just don't have the money to really spend on a lot of presents for your family members, feel free to get creative. I think those gift exchanges really help on spending a little bit, but homemade gifts or cooking can really save you some money if you want to say that you're offer to cook something for someone one day. Or I know when we were younger, we used to give my mom like chores that we would do around the house, or we'll give you a free back massage for 30 minutes or something. So things that people really appreciate. It doesn't always need to be materialistic, but those different things that are low cost that maybe you're just giving out of the kindness of your heart can really work out well if you are kind of in that crunch of buying a lot of gifts as well. The next step to making your budget is to track your spending. So like I said before, you don't want to wait until the end of December to start adding up all of your Christmas receipts and start adding up all the costs of Christmas. You want to make sure you're doing that beforehand, because once you start adding it up, maybe even after Christmas, maybe you don't look at anything until the 26th of December, and by that time it might be too late and you may have been way too over budget. So make sure you're keeping track of all those things right away when you buy them, and even before you buy them, make sure they're in the budget and they fit into the budget, and you're not just spending until the end of Christmas.
Yeah, and I think it's important to track, those single expenses, and obviously, $5 cover or over charge in one area is not going to be a huge, negative impact on your budget. But just be sure that, you're going to be pretty if you don't do that in several categories throughout the month. So if you keep going over $5 in a certain area, that will add up over time. And so just pay attention to those small details, because they will add up.
Yeah, and kind of going along again with the article, the second to last thing says consider using cash. And this is one of my favorite things from this article is to consider using cash, because I know we've said it a few, I think it was on our credit card episode, that you do tend to spend about 12 to 18% more when you pay with plastic, whether it is a debit card or a credit card. I would say a credit card, you have even a little bit more disconnect since there's not actual money being withdrawn from an account, but it's just kind of accruing. But I think the envelope system that Dave Ramsey talks about a lot is a good system to use, of maybe having an envelope for your decorations, an envelope for your presents, an envelope for your food, and then maybe an envelope for your travel that's all cash withdrawn, maybe from an ATM or a bank, that you can pay for them and you actually feel a little bit of with psychology with spending cash rather than paying with plastic. So something I would consider a little bit. I think that just makes it a little bit easier to stop yourself and really see the money that you're spending on everything when you do use cash.
Yeah, I think a lot of us tend to kind of float towards using those store cards around the holiday season. I know department stores will push them pretty hard, and if you, it's okay if you have a few of those cards. Obviously, we did a credit card segment here on the show, but if you consistently use those cards and are not, if you're carrying a balance on those cards, really, really consider using cash if you're unable to control your spending habits there. Whenever you go out to the store, if you tend to overspend, then try to start to train yourself by bringing only a certain amount of cash into the store with you. I kind of related this to those of us who tend to overeat. Try only buying enough food that's going to last you the week. That way you literally do not have the food there in the fridge to indulge in. And so I think that can apply to our finances as well. Just bring as much cash into the store as you are planning to spend, and that will really help you out.
Yeah, I think that credit card point is a really good point you made. I remember shopping last year a little bit, and even this year a little bit. Of you go to pretty much any department store, and hey, if you want to sign up for our rewards card or our credit card, we'll give you an extra 30% off, or we'll give you $15 in cash to our store, or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very tempting because you kind of want to slash the price of those presents that you're buying. But they can also be a little dangerous once you get a lot of those going. But just be careful about those if you are shopping at department stores. I'm not saying that they're all bad, but they just can get a little overwhelming as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of the last thing the article talks about is just planning ahead with your Christmas fund. So we know that Christmas is always going to be in December. Christmas doesn't move from month to month. It's not going to sneak up on us ever. So for this reason, you should kind of have it planned out of when you want to start saving and what you want your goal to be by December. It's not going to sneak up on you. So if you want to start in April or March or even January for next Christmas, you can start then and really start saving up maybe that 5 or 6 months and build up that $100 a month for $500 or $600. Whatever you're looking to create that budget with, whatever the amount you want, just make sure you have that planned out and that you can do that by the time Christmas comes.
Yeah, it's really simple, right? If your budget is $600, then save up $100 a week for the next 6 weeks until you hit that goal. Mm-hmm. And I think this point really hit home with me. If you plan ahead by putting money away a few months in advance, then you're able to really enjoy the holiday season so much more so than if you wait towards the end and then scramble and realize you don't have the cash that you want to be able to buy the presents that you want. And now a question is, where do I put the extra money that I'm saving? Do I put it in my savings? Do I put it in my checking? I don't know really what to do with it. And I think, this can just go right into your checking account. There's no reason to really mix it with your emergency fund and savings for any reason. If you're having your budget, you're starting to see what goes in and out of your checking account. So you're not just looking at one number and trying to look at 60 transactions for the month. You're actually seeing your budget and the amounts there. And so just use your budget and make sure that extra money goes into your checking account, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I would agree that the checking account is a perfect place for it. Make sure the money is liquid and that you can just take it out whenever you want to or however you want to. So good points there. Going off the topic of budgeting for Christmas, when we come back, Austin and I will be giving some average cost to Christmas and how you can save some money this holiday season as well. It's 17 minutes past the hour. This is the Weekly Allowance.
All right, I'm getting a phone call.
Are you really?
Yeah. Turning over to Facebook Live?
Yep.
All right. How's everybody doing? We've got some comments coming in. I'm trying to check my phone while I'm doing the show, and it's kind of distracting me. Maybe I should just wait. But it's got Santa and his elf here.
Yep.
Answering any questions that you guys are up.
And let's see, seven viewers, so looking good out there. I had a whole Christmas list prepared for the breaks here, and then we're having a little trouble with the aux cord in here, so we're just playing some radio music at the moment. But wow, got a lot of likes coming in there from whoever that is. But
it's kind of weird looking at two screens. So on one screen we have Facebook Live. On one screen we have our YouTube, right?
Yep, YouTube Live. So again, we put all of our videos on YouTube as well. So we've been doing Facebook Live for the last few, and we've done YouTube. So if you ever go on to my YouTube channel, Luke Grosniklaus, you can watch some of our past videos. And then we have all of our audio on our podcast as well. But it's kind of fun going Facebook Live. Someone's going crazy with the likes right now, but
man, we can't handle all the likes coming in, all the comments. We can't get through them.
Let's see. Houston has a question here about how much should I spend on a holiday haircut, Luke? Kind of funny story. Houston just asked me earlier today where I get my haircut done, so I must have a pretty good head of hair. But I only spend $10 on my haircuts. I go to, I guess I don't know if I can really advertise too much, but I go to a place in Kearney that only charges $10 for students, so I'm not too high maintenance with my hair, but they get the job done and get it done right. So
yeah, looks good. I spend a little bit more on my haircuts, but that's okay.
Gotta look good. Gotta look good as the student body president. I don't really have anything
I don't know about that.
So Let's see. Michael Christian, is this a sign that Santa is looking to gain some weight over the holidays? I'm wearing a really big Santa suit right now, so I do actually need to gain some weight. But I don't know how much I'm gonna spend. What's all allocated in my budget for food, I guess, this Christmas. But looking forward to eating whatever my family makes for Christmas as well.
Oh yeah, going home for that home cooked meal. That's always
and
it's
then
a good time.
Got to give a shout out to Jonah Peterson. He's the one that's throwing up all those likes, I think. So thanks for joining us, Jonah, and all the other 11 followers, listeners we got right now. So
yeah, wow, it's really getting up there.
Keep it coming in. We are 12 now. Wow, just a very popular show at the moment. 13, man.
So for those of you just joining us, I guess, obviously a Christmas special here. We're talking about Christmas budgeting. We're going to jump into a little bit of average expenses that go along with the holidays, along with Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and then we're going to close the show. Make sure you guys stick around. We're going to talk about setting New Year's resolutions with your financial goals, which is something really important. I think a lot of people can really rally around. So it's an exciting show coming up.
Yep, for sure. And be sure to keep throwing your questions that you have for us. We'll get those answered at the end of the show as well, and keep answering them in our breaks from the radio as well. So we'll get back to the show, and just keep tuning in. Thanks, guys.
All right.
And we're back on 91.1 KLPR. This is the Weekly Allowance. Again, we're live on the radio, and we're also live on Facebook. So if you want to tune in and see our great Christmas costumes, we got Santa in the studio today, also known as me, and we have Buddy the Elf as well, also known as Austin Partridge. So we're looking good on Facebook Live. If you want to tune in there, that's where we're at. For this next 15 minutes or so, we want to talk about some of the average costs that go into Christmas. As we mentioned before, there's a lot of different costs, whether it's decorations or food or presents, whatever it may be. There's a lot of different costs that go into Christmas. So we want to talk about kind of the averages of people, and then we want to talk about how you can save money and some of the special days that are pretty much set in place to save money for Christmas as well, and some of the averages that go along with those days as well. So we'll just dive into it. I want to dive in with a statistic that says, it's according to the American Research Group, U.S. shoppers anticipate spending an average of $929 this season on Christmas gifts. So this is just gifts, and just a little over $900. So again, we've discussed before in the show that the average household income is about $50,000 in America today. So we're looking at about just over $900 spent on Christmas gifts. So if you're looking at what should I be spending on Christmas gifts, I really don't have like a household income right now. I don't really buy gifts for too many people, just really for my immediate family. But I would say kind of go based off this number, and I would say probably don't get higher than the average too much unless you do want to save up that much money. But I would say just go based on that average. So if you're making $100,000, maybe you could spend $1,800 on Christmas gifts. Or if you're making $200,000, maybe you can spend $3,600 on Christmas gifts. So just kind of go based on your income and take a little bit of that sum or a percentage of your income and know that you can spend that on Christmas gifts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by all means, if you have that income, more than willing to go out and really show your loved ones that you care about them and get them some really awesome gifts. And so, I thought this statistic was pretty interesting. $929 average American. And obviously some are more, some are less, but that's the average. And I just it really jumps out to me, and I actually did some research on the number of individuals who live paycheck to paycheck. And I just wanted to see if these numbers correlated at all, and so here's what I found. So according to CNBC, 78% of full-time workers say they live paycheck to paycheck, and this is up from 75% last year. And 71% of all U.S. workers said that they're now in debt, and that's up again from 68% last year. And so if you're living paycheck to paycheck, and if you're in debt, and you're an average American, and you go out and spend $929 on Christmas gifts, I just don't know. I don't know why. Maybe it's because you want to show that you have money or something like that. But that is just astonishing to me that high percentage of Americans You can almost say that's the average. People are living paycheck to paycheck, and people are in debt. That's the average lifestyle in America, and then they go out and spend almost $1,000 on Christmas gifts. That's astonishing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Of kind of if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you want to spend that much on Christmas gifts, it's a little tough to grasp. And we've touched on this before earlier in the episode that it's hard to show your love through materialistic ideas and gifts and stuff like that. So if you're spending that much to kind of show your love or appreciation, it gets a little iffy for me. But again, if you do have the money, I'm fine with you spending that. But I would say the next statistic that kind of sticks out that kind of goes along with this, this is also American Research Group, 34% of parents reported that they were planning to spend $500 or more per child. And that's one where I'm like, whoa, I've never gotten that much money worth of Christmas gifts in my life, and I think my parents would really kind of laugh at that statistic as well. But that's a lot. 34% of parents. That's 1/3 of parents are willing to spend more than $500 per child on gifts, and that's pretty alarming as well.
Yeah, it's crazy that that's per child. So you look at your family, Luke. You have 3 siblings. That's $1,500 right there for Christmas presents for just the kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kids, and I'm in the same boat as you. I wish I could have. I would have gotten that much, but obviously that was nowhere near that when I was a kid. So again, there's no necessity to go out and spend that much money per child. I think that doesn't really teach our kids anything if we go out and spend a ton of money on them. I know obviously it's nice to get a good gift here and there, but just trying to teach children the value of not materialistic things, of other things in our lives that really mean so much more. I think that's a statistic that really jumped out at me too.
Yeah, and I would say if you're wondering where your child's college fund is, you're wrapping it up in a present really if you're spending that much. So they're opening it up every Christmas and seeing what it's like. But as a kid, which you're kind of young and naive as a kid, but if I could have $500 every year thrown in my college fund for my parents, that wouldn't be a bad deal either. Cut that in half and throw some money into a college fund for a child would be good as well. But I guess that's just my opinion.
And I think just to go along with that, when you're a kid, you're kind of immature, right? You don't really understand everything that's going to go on in your future. But as a parent, I think you need to take that responsibility and say, I'm not in that financial situation where I'm able to give that much as Christmas presents right now. I'm more focused on really trying to take care of my kids for their future and trying to contribute to their college fund. And so when your child grows up and is able to see that, maybe they didn't get that Hot Wheel for Christmas, but hey, you're going to be able to help them out, pay for college, and that's going to be so much more meaningful to them down the road.
Mm-hmm. And another statistic, this one makes me cringe, absolutely. I don't even like reading this, but an estimated 25% are taking drastic measures, such as withdrawing money from their 401ks, dipping into their emergency funds, or taking out payday loans in order to purchase holiday gifts. So kind of tough to say without laughing or cringing a little bit, but there's just a big, there's a problem there. If you have to take out of your retirement or your emergency fund, there's a problem there, and it's not good, especially with that retirement. You take a big hit when you take money out of your 401k before you're of the age to do so. I know it's 10% right off the top, and then it's really whatever your effective tax rate is after that. So if you're looking at taking out a loan for 30% or 35% or whatever it may be, that penalty, it's just not a smart investment and not a smart thing to do. Leave your retirement alone, leave your emergency fund alone, and find cash elsewhere, or be creative with your gifts and find other ways, because I don't think anyone really wants you to be in that situation.
Yeah, I don't know if people think that they have this money so they can just use it wherever they want if it's in their 401k. But if it's in your 401k, it's in your 401k. You cannot access that you should not access that until you are getting ready to approach retirement. So it's effectively like you're borrowing money at 35% interest, with the example that Luke gave us, to buy your Christmas presents. And I think that is absolutely crazy, and hopefully nobody is doing that. But if you are doing that, just be aware that you are borrowing money at a very high percent interest. That's effectively what you're doing. So just be aware of that.
So let's talk a little bit about Christmas presents. I want to dive into Christmas decorations a little bit because those can also get pretty pricey if you hang up a lot of lights on the house or hang up stuff around your house as well. And so this is also from the American Research Group. In 2015, Americans spent around $7.2 billion on Christmas decorations. So this included Christmas trees and lights and inflatable Santas, inside decorations, whatever it may be. And so it equals out to about $80 per household a year, which really isn't too bad. But that $7.2 billion is quite a few. And I always wonder, kind of when I look at decorations, my family's always kind of lit up the house a little bit. We don't get too extravagant. But the people that have the lights that play to the car radio and they go off while you're listening to your car radio and they do the whole show and stuff, I've never known how much that costs, but it's always intrigued me that people do that. And I mean, I love going by and looking at it through the Christmas season, but I've always wondered kind of how much that costs as well.
Yeah, and so going along with that, I dug into potentially getting a phone call right now. I don't know if we should answer that.
We'll just keep talking.
All right, we're gonna ignore that phone call for the time being. If that is you, maybe throw a comment on our Facebook page and we will make sure to pick up. But so I kind of dug into how much the average American spends on their Christmas lights. As Luke mentioned, and I found that on average Americans spend around $115 more on top of their electricity bills each month once they put their Christmas lights up. And so that includes lining your roof, putting a wreath on the door, and having your Christmas tree lit, and running your Christmas lights on the outside of your house for about 4 to 5 hours a night. That's that can add up a little bit, especially if your budget's pretty tight. Maybe that's an area where you can find a little bit more in your budget. And diving into that a little bit deeper, I'm a nerd with this type of stuff. So those big incandescent light bulbs that I think they're a little bit older now, but those actually take about $15 to run over a season. And those new smaller LED lights only cost about 41 cents to run. So maybe if you do have Christmas lights to put up, maybe just do a little bit of research and go out and make an investment in those smaller LED lights and save yourself some money.
Right, and I love Christmas lights. Like, it's one of my favorite things to go look at during the Christmas season. And just a good thing to, if you do want to hang up some, I really encourage you to, because I think it's pretty beautiful. But I want to talk about holiday sales as well. So we've talked about presents, we've talked about decorations, whatever it may be, and I want to talk a little bit about holiday sales as well. And so I want to begin with a statistic that in 2016 the amount spent on retail was $655.8 billion, which is equivalent to about $935 per shopper. And so that's a big number. I mean, $655 billion spent on retail sales.
We're actually in the middle of a show right now.
In 2017, the statistic was actually $682.0 billion as well. So just a lot of retail. And I'm going to wait for Austin to get off his phone call here, but we'll be back in just a second.
Okay, I will give you a call right back after we get done. All right, thank you, bye. All right, I'm back. That was somebody calling in because they wanted to play some music on the show. Nothing in regards to us, but so where were we at, Luke?
So I was just talking about holiday season sales, so I'll go over these a little bit again, just to reiterate, just for you, and I think it might have been a little bit hard for the viewers to hear. So in 2016, the amount spent on retail was $655.8 billion. That's $935 per shopper in 2016. And then in 2017, the amount spent on retail was $682 billion, or $967 per shopper. So those are big numbers just to start off the statistic there with holiday season sales. And that's after I talk about that, I kind of want to touch on how you can save a little bit and if this amount is right to spend, I mean, kind of to start out with. But I think we have some really good days on Black Friday and Cyber Monday where you can really save yourself some money. I know they're pretty hectic days to shop, but it's a pretty big number to spend almost $1,000 per shopper in the holiday season. And again, if you have that money, go for it and spend whatever you need to as long as you have that money. But we do talk about the people that live paycheck to paycheck, and that would be a pretty tough expense to take on during the holiday season.
Yeah, those numbers are crazy, and obviously they illustrate that people are going out and spending a lot of money during the holiday season, especially on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and those are great scenarios to get into if you're looking to maybe purchase your Christmas gifts early and get them on sale and get them at a discount. But if you're going out and spending money on Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and then you're also buying Christmas presents, during the month of December, and that can add up over the course of 2 months. It's pretty close dates there, and so if you're spending a lot of money, that can definitely add up in your budget. And so I would just make sure that you understand and try to have a plan and have some structure there before you go out and buy a whole lot.
Right, so speaking of structure and kind of a plan, one big plan that most people plan for is Black Friday shopping, and it's really gotten to be a whole weekend, Black Friday weekend, I would say. I mean, it usually starts on Thanksgiving night or sometimes Thanksgiving Day, but it goes all throughout, usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the weekend of Thanksgiving. And I have a few statistics from thebalance.com on Black Friday, and this is based off 2016 statistics since it just happened in 2017. So in 2016, there were 101 million people who braved the crowds on Black Friday, and they say that this was the busiest shopping day for stores throughout the year by far. And it says that 29 million people shopped on Thursday, 64 million shopped on Saturday, and then 33 million people shopped on Sunday. And then on the Black Friday, like I said, 101 million people shopped then. So this made it 227 million people in total throughout the 4 days of Black Friday weekend shopped. So you have a lot of consumers buying stuff on Black Friday. I think there's 330 million people or so in the United States. So majority of the people in the United States are shopping out on Black Friday weekend as well.
That's crazy. I mean, I know retailers are more and more so trying to push their deals and pushing them further and further into Thanksgiving. I know one store opened at like 11 a.m. On Thanksgiving Day, and I think that encroaches a little bit on people's Thanksgiving a little bit. So I would say, the nice thing about having your budget and developing your budget beforehand is that you don't necessarily need to. Yes, it can be nice to go out and wait in line for about 5 or 6 hours to get that TV, but once you have your budget and once you start to get your life under control financially, you don't really need to go out and save $40 on that TV. You can wait and purchase it later, and it's not going to be a huge part of your financial budget or anything like that. And so that's one thing that we really recommend is try to start getting your finances figured out so you don't have to go out and buy your Christmas presents and wait in line and trample people to go out and get those TVs and whatnot.
Yeah, because I would call myself a very frugal person. I'm pretty cheap when it comes to stuff, but it's amazing to see what some people will do to save $40 or $50 or whatever it may be of waiting in line on Thanksgiving night instead of spending time with your family to get $50 off a TV or get an iPad for $200 or whatever it is. It's kind of crazy, but I mean, to each their own, I guess. But I guess the next thing to talk about a little bit too, going along with Black Friday is Cyber Monday, and that's by far the biggest online shopping day of the year as well. And I think it's really popular because you don't have to fight those crowds. You don't even have to leave the comfort of your home. And the way that technology has come, where everyone has their phones and their laptops and their iPads on them, you can really buy it from, if you're at work or if you're on the go, whatever you need, just log on online. And it's usually free shipping as well, so you're not really losing anything by buying stuff online either, rather than like maybe trying on clothes. But it's pretty crazy. It's the same thing as Black Friday, where some have a Cyber Week. I know like Amazon usually has Cyber Monday, Cyber Week deals all week long, starting on Cyber Monday. But a few of the statistics there is that sales on Cyber Monday in 2016 were $6.6 billion. And 40% of shoppers said that they do prefer Cyber Monday compared to Black Friday because they enjoy the 24-hour long period of convenience on Cyber Monday, and also because of the crowds on Black Friday as well. So you have a lot of shoppers kind of transitioning or shifting into that Cyber Monday over Black Friday, but with the statistics, we do still have a lot of Black Friday shoppers as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so retailers are making it even more convenient to go out and spend money, right? Great. But I think it's so easy to get pulled into, you know, the holiday norms of spending over your budget, or spending more than you probably should. And that's just, you know, maybe that's because of society has kind of begun to normalize the excessive spending on the holidays around Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And I don't know whether it's, you know, whether people feel they need to compete with other people or, you know, get others the best possible presents to show them that we have money and or whatnot. But I think it's really taking a toll on a lot of people and a lot of families. And I think, you know, the takeaway here is understand spending around the holidays can get out of hand pretty quickly, and really try to develop a plan ahead of time. So maybe you can capture on some of those deals on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but don't feel the pressure that you need to go out and spend more than you can handle.
Yeah, definitely. The thing to take away from this is with all those numbers and all the people that shop and do these things is that you're not alone in thinking that the holiday season is crazy, because it is, and you're not alone in being afraid of spending too much money or in how much you want to spend and thinking that way. You're not alone, because I think there's a lot of people that have the same mindset, and it's just kind of going along with, I think it all starts with creating that budget and just having the discipline to stick to that budget, because as I said at the start of the show, 48% of people, or I think it's 58% of people create that budget. They just don't stick to it. So have that mindset to create it, but also have the discipline to stick to it, even with these crazy days on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the $900 spent per person on retail. So kind of ignore those statistics and don't try and live up to those statistics, but stay away from them if you need to with your budget.
Mm-hmm.
When we come back, we'll take a short break here. Austin and I will be discussing New Year's resolutions for 2018. What do you want to happen with your finances this new year? It is 41 minutes past the hour. This is the Weekly Allowance. Oh, yeah, the lucky caller there trying to...
Yeah, they had a Christmas list for or Christmas song for the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right, we turn over to Facebook Live here. Oh.
Oh, man.
Let's see. The cycle is stock market, I believe. Too much invested in the market, therefore he can be seeking optimism. Just keep watching. There's a lot of comments coming in right now on Facebook Live, so I'm going to go to my phone here so we can see them all, because we can't see them all on the screen.
Yep.
But I would say, you know, a few questions for our audience. Did you guys go Black Friday and Cyber Monday shopping? And if you did, what was the best deal that you found?
Yep.
It'd be interesting to see that.
I know that I shopped online a little bit Cyber Monday, and I got a bag off of fossil.com for, I think it was $50 off, so free shipping too. So I hit up those Cyber Monday deals. I'm not much of one to go out on Black Friday. I kind of like spending the Thanksgiving weekend with my family, and I'm not one to fight crowds either. So I got a really good deal on Cyber Monday, but I'm one of those shoppers that's kind of geared more towards Cyber Monday and stuff. But yeah, we'd love to see what you guys bought or how much money you saved, because there's a lot of money saved on those days as well.
Yeah, so we had some great comments coming in. Keep them coming in. We'll try to answer them at the end of the show. One that I just wanted to touch on really quick by Ryan Clark. Shout out. Great question. Really challenging here. He said, referring back to the fact that 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck, and that so many people are going out and spending money these holiday seasons, he probably says they probably don't have a lot invested, especially in the stock market. And therefore, as we hear the economy is looking up and the stock market is doing really well, they've become more willing to spend their money, even though their own personal wealth and their investments probably aren't doing so hot, because they're not investing in the stock market. And so what do we think of that? I think that's a great insight there. I think a lot of people are going out and spending a lot, so consumer spending's up. That kind of makes the economy look great, and I think a lot of people, obviously, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have the money to obviously invest, right? And so, yeah, I would say I agree with that, and I'd have to do more research on exactly the statistics on that. But I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about paycheck to paycheck living is just kind of a tough thing, and that's a really crazy statistic of 78% of people doing that. And we talk a lot on this show about emergency funds, and when you live paycheck to paycheck, you probably don't have an emergency fund, and so when you get let off from a job, or if there's a medical expense maybe, or something comes up, maybe your car breaks down, it can be really tough on a family. It can be really tough just kind of if you're living in poverty or whatever it may be. It can be really tough when you don't have an emergency fund, or if you're living paycheck to paycheck when you have those tough expenses. And so don't let Christmas really get in the way of that if that is a situation. Still have a great holiday weekend, but don't let it make or break you either.
Yeah, and so we're kind of recommending that people maybe don't go out and spend as much, and maybe they save and invest that money. And what are the implications that has on the stock market? Well, I would say we might not have the biggest impact as far as the American market. I wish we did. I wish we could say these things and get everybody in America to go out and spend a little bit less and save a little bit more and put that money into the market. And maybe that would have negative implications on the market. But I think at the end of the day, if your personal finances are in order, I think you need to worry about yourself first. I know that's kind of theoretically incorrect, right? Saying something you should put your money into something that's probably going to not do as well. But theoretically, go out there and make sure you're taking care of yourself.
All right. Yeah, I'm no investments expert myself at all. I'm more of a personal finance guy, and just living below your means is really just what I know a lot about. But other than that, I can't talk too much about the stock market or anything going on there. It's pretty far over my head, and maybe someday, hopefully. But yeah,
I like how Dave Ramsey says investing is personal finance, 80% head knowledge,
yep,
and 20% or 80% common sense, 20% actual head knowledge.
Yep.
And so anybody can do it. It just takes the want to and you want to actually want to start to do it, and you don't need to dive in and do any complex research or anything like that. You just need to start. So,
all right, cool.
All right,
we'll get back for the third and last segment of our show, and keep the questions coming. We'll get those answered at the end of the show as well. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And we're back on 91.1 KLPR. This is the weekly Allowance. We're also live on Facebook if you guys want to tune in there. Me, again, is dressed up as Santa, and Austin Partridge, again, dressed up as an elf. So getting very festive before the holidays approach us. And we're talking in this last 15 minutes about New Year's resolutions and really relating to your financial New Year's resolution. And so we have another article. It's from thebalance.com that kind of talks about some of the different goals that you can set for yourself as the new year approaches relating to finances. So this is a good start. I mean, we think of the calendar year, and January is always a fresh start for us. And whether it is exercising more or reading more books, or whether it is finances, we all want to kind of spice up or change our life a little bit. And so we want to walk you through how you can do that financially with this article. And so the first goal that you could set for yourself is just having a goal to write out a budget every month. And it's kind of the first step, as we like to say, of getting the control of your finances. So it's something that can be a little stressful at first, but once you get the hang of it, once you get to probably writing 3 budgets, probably 3 months, you have it down and you kind of know how to handle it. And like we said in our budgeting episode, it's pretty easy to do because there's a lot of online applications now, and a lot of applications where you can actually create your budget, and they pretty much do everything for you. You just plug in the numbers. So it can get pretty easy if you go to any of those applications to write out your budget each month.
Yeah, and so this one's pretty easy, right? It's the first step, but it's a good first step. And if you're already doing this, I know a lot of you probably are. Think of ways how you can get better. How can you make your budget more accurate? How can you improve your time? How can you be more time efficient and use your time more efficiently to create your budget? Just some things to go even further and get even better with this step.
Yeah, so going on with a few other goals, number 2 is write down every penny you spend. And this is actually something I like to do just because I'm kind of a nerd and like to know the numbers of what I spent throughout the year. So since 2016 I started doing this. This is the second year I've done it. I'll do it again in 2018. But I literally just write down kind of every purchase, and it goes into different categories. I don't write down every single location and purchase, but they go into different categories. And so I write down every single dollar I make and every single dollar that I spend. And so I have kind of my net income at the end of the year. And so I've been doing that for 2 years now, and I've really enjoyed it. Again, it takes a little bit of a nerd to do it, but you can do it easily on an Excel spreadsheet. That's what I use. Or if you just want to write it out by hand, you can do that too, and plug it in each month or whatever you want to do. It's actually, I find it a lot of fun to do, to kind of track your income and your expenses to see how much you make and how much you can work with from year to year as well.
Yeah, Excel's pretty fun to work with. So I really encourage you to keep your receipts, or at least check your online bank account summary consistently each month, and really start to record your expenses. And you can even do really fun things in Excel, like make a graph, and it'll show your expenses over time and if they're increasing or decreasing, and what months you spend more than others. And obviously, probably November, December are going to be a little bit higher because you're buying presents and whatnot. But just make it fun, make it interesting, and make sure you are doing it.
And to go along with question 1, or to go along with goal 1, goal 3 is sticking to your budget each month. So there's a goal of creating a budget, and then there's a goal of sticking to your budget. Like we said with our Christmas budgets, 58% of people don't stick to them. They make them, but they don't stick to them. So that can be a goal too. If you've been creating budgets for a year or two now, but you just have a really tough time sticking to it, set that as your New Year's resolution. If I'm actually going to stick to this budget that I create and spend less money than I make, and it's really going to impact kind of my future in that aspect.
Yeah, and if you have trouble sticking to your budget, I think we need to think longer term. I think you need to think of your overall goal. Okay, what are you trying to achieve with this budget? You're not just trying to write down your expenses and that's it. You're trying to achieve your financial goals. And so when you're having trouble sticking to it, you need to remind yourself that this is going to help me long term financially, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm not just doing it to just write it down.
Right. And I think kind of going on another note now is debt that comes up, and kind of the New Year's resolution for that. And I think that's a big goal that a lot of people do create when they're maybe a young couple trying to get out of debt, or wherever you're at in life and just trying to get out of your debt. So as a good New Year's resolution, maybe for some college students that may have graduated last year, paying off your student loans, maybe getting out of any debt that you are in. Maybe you have a car loan or whatever it is. Reduce your debt would be a good one, and to just get rid of your debt would be another one too. So depending on how much debt you have, I mean, obviously if you're making $40,000 a year and you have $60,000 worth of debt, it's going to be hard to do in a year, obviously, but try to reduce it. Try to find what you could pay off maybe within the year, or a few things that you could pay off within the year, and reduce that debt, and just have that be your goal for the year. And I think you would, just by writing it out and seeing what you owe on everything, you'll be shocked with how much you can do in a year.
Yeah, so make it a goal to be debt-free by March, by June, by November, and then back that out to what your budget exactly needs to be put in, on how much you need to put away for each month to make that happen. And so it can be relatively simple. If you have X amount of debt, you want to be debt-free by November. Well, what do you need to put away each month to make that happen, and then stick to it and make it your goal to pay off that debt.
Yeah, and you always want it to be attainable too. You don't want to set your goal to say, I'm going to pay off my house this year, when maybe you have a $100 mortgage or whatever it is. So it needs to be attainable. Don't do something that you aren't going to be able to live up to, because then it will obviously be pretty hard to do that. And you do want to meet your goals. You want to make them specific, and you want to make them attainable. Mm-hmm. Another thing is, with reducing your debt, make a goal to not add any more debt this year. So say, that's enough. I'm tired of borrowing money. I'm tired of all these payments. And say no to any more debt. Just say, the one exception, I guess I would say, with this is buying a home. You could do that, and you could take out a mortgage if you're a young couple and you want to buy a home or something like that. That would be an exception. But if it comes to cars or whatever loans you're taking out, just try to not add any more debt, especially if you're already in debt. It's really hard to get out of debt when you add more onto it as well.
Mm-hmm. And I would just say, going along with that, maybe make it a goal to stop using your credit cards, or at least stop carrying a balance on your credit card each month. That's something small and something easy that you can hopefully do to obviously not add any more to your debt.
We talked about this a little bit earlier, kind of on our Facebook Live in between segments, and number 6 is save up an emergency fund. And this is one of my favorite ones. Again, this is very, maybe not easy to do, but just necessary to do. And emergency funds, we usually talk about them. They include about 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, but just saving up $1,000 is a really good start to an emergency fund. Mm-hmm. So this year, if you do not have an emergency fund, I would take that first 6 months and really try and build up some expense money to where if you do have that emergency medical, something happen there, or if you do get laid off from your job or whatever it may be, you have some time to pay off your expenses for those 3 to 6 months and get back on your feet without running into a disaster.
Yeah, and I think, if you already have your emergency fund in place, how can you build to it? How can you improve it? Maybe it's time to analyze it. Maybe you haven't looked at it in a little while, and maybe you're making a lot more money, so that 3 to 6 months of expenses have increased, but you haven't put any more money into it. So maybe just take a once over of your emergency fund and see if you need to add any more to it.
Number 7, we have start saving for retirement. So if you are at some point in your life and you haven't really contributed anything to a 401k or a Roth IRA or whatever it may be, start thinking about retirement. Even if you're young, even if you just graduated college and maybe you're debt-free, start thinking about contributing maybe 10 or 15% of your income to your retirement savings, because the more you throw in when you're young, the more you're going to have when you're older. So, and if you are older and you haven't saved for retirement yet, it's never too late to start throwing some money into your retirement. So a big thing to do is start throwing some money into your retirement. And I would say the number one thing is getting out of debt first before you do that. But after doing that, that should be a big priority of yours.
Yeah, and I think, how do you start? I think that's the biggest step is actually starting to save for retirement. And once you do start, I think you'll see that it gets pretty easy and fun. And so I really encourage you to, either talk to someone who has some expertise in this area. If you have no idea who to go to a friend and see what they do. Someone who's good with personal finance, and they'll have a few recommendations for you. And I really just encourage you to take that first step and start.
Yeah, number 8 is better your career. So if you're not happy with your career, maybe start exploring different options or maybe different things you can do within your company that you might like a little bit more. If you are happy, maybe find something you can do to improve your stability and prepare yourself for maybe a higher position within the company. So if you really like your job and you want to climb up the ladder a little bit, maybe start thinking about things you can do to improve your career that way, or just if you really want to stay there and you don't want to get fired, think of some ways that you can improve your stability as well.
Yeah, so I really love this point. This year, let's make it a goal to kick complacency to the curb and really be aggressive towards, striving for excellence in our careers. If you hate your job, find something else. Quit. Take that step. Don't just go throughout this year complaining about your job. Do something about it. And if you love your job, like Luke mentioned, that's great. Improve upon an aspect and make it a goal to go in every day and just be excellent at what you do.
Yeah, and I like that word of complacency of coasting throughout your job. It's not the best way to live life, and I know when you've worked a job for maybe 10 or 15 years, it can get kind of bland and kind of old doing the same thing day to day, but just try to do something different this year to spice it up a little bit and really enjoy what you do. Mm-hmm. Number 9 is set up a long-term financial plan. So make a timetable of some stuff. So if you want to get out of debt, say, hey, by May of 2020, I want to be completely out of debt, house and everything. Or maybe, hey, I want to purchase a house and I want to do that by this next summer and I want to close on a house at that time. Or if you want to buy 2 cars by next Christmas, set that up and just have a long-term financial plan of what maybe your investments are going to look like in the future and kind of what the rest of your life is going to look like, whether you are single or whether you are married or whatever happens there.
So we've done this on the show before, right? I kind of played around with my financial calculator and crunched some numbers there and said that, if you want to retire with $1 million, you can crunch that into your financial calculator. Even go online. I'm sure there's financial calculators online that you can use for free and say, okay, here's my age, here's how much I'm willing to put in per month, and here's the interest rate that I'm going to earn on my investments. What do I need to put away each month to retire with $1 million? And we always talk about goals on the show, and that's so important to talk about those objectives because goals really help you set that structure in your life to be able to achieve the things that you want to accomplish, and so it's so important.
And then our last one, number 10, is cut spending in at least 2 different budget categories. So we have all these different budget categories, and a big one that we mentioned earlier was going out to eat. So maybe you go out to eat a lot every month and you spend a lot of money during that time. And maybe it's going on vacations, or maybe you're spending too much. For me, it might be spending too much on golf clubs, or going on golf trips, or playing golf, whatever it may be. If you feel like you're spending too much in a category and it's really hindering your ability to save up for maybe retirement, or for your kids, or whatever it may be, try to cut spending in some of those categories and see if you can maybe save a little bit more or give a little bit more too.
Yeah, I think we can always find those areas in our budget to free up, and I think, you know, the main takeaway here through talking about these 10 things to potentially implement for the new year is, you know, hopefully we were able to highlight the importance of creating some structure around your spending, especially during the holidays, and a few goals that you can set for yourself in 2018 and really work towards and strive towards being your best self. And even if you're doing some of these, which hopefully you are, right? But think of some ways that you can improve and really increase your financial security in 2018, and so that year can be your year.
Yeah, and it's always important when you're setting goals, it's always important to remember that you are in charge of your life, and the one person that determines how successful you are is yourself. And so just remembering that, and it's kind of an analogy of maybe planting a flower. If you don't plant something, or maybe planting crops, if you don't plant something, if you don't set that goal, then weeds will start to grow, and maybe that field or weeds will start to grow and start to take place of those goals that you're setting for yourself. So make sure you're planting something goal-wise this holiday season for the new year and sticking to it. So we'll go on to kind of our questions on Facebook Live. We want to thank our Facebook Live listeners as well for tuning in today and asking some of these questions. So we will go over a few of those. A few funny comments from some guys. Let's see. Jared Bowler asks, what do you think the optimal amount of credit cards per user is? Personally, I feel like having less than 3 would be beneficial, so you can effectively keep track of them. Also, I love the enthusiasm. Don't coast in life, soar. So, one of our good friends, Jared Bowler. Thanks for tuning in, Jared. I think you have a good amount there. I think you have to. It's all about what you can keep track of. If you're a really organized person and you feel like you can keep track of having 5 or 6 credit cards, I would test it out with a few less than that, and then kind of grow with that. But I mean, for me, I don't think I'm organized enough to keep track of all those cards. I like having 1 or 2, maybe 3. If there's a store that you shop a bunch at, those credit cards can save you some money when shopping at those stores. So maybe having a few store cards, and then maybe a kind of a personal credit card stuff there. But I would never get in over my head with credit cards, just because I sometimes have trouble keeping track of just one form of payment on one card. So kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to get into the position where, you know, you have all of these cards and you are unorganized and you're starting to pay off debt with, you know, some credit cards that you're opening and things like that. That can get way over your head. So, you know, personally, I just have one right now. It's a cashback rewards card, and so I just kind of been using that to get cash back on gas and groceries and whatnot, and I just saw that comment come in, Luke. But I think, you know, personally for me, 1 to 2 is fine. 3 is okay. 4 may push it, but just I don't think you need a whole lot of credit cards. I think, you know, the number that you have, you're able to say that you're able to use them, you know, effectively. So I think whatever you want to use them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a pretty funny comment come in from Scott Bauer, and I hope this isn't true, but he says, I have 5 credit cards. I maxed them all out. Do you think this is okay or not? And I think our obvious answer to that would be no, that is not okay. If you can't, I think you should try and handle 1 credit card, and if you can't do that, then you need to cut them all up. And if you can't handle 1, you obviously can't handle 5, but cut them up if you can't handle them. I mean, don't let those things just be a nuisance in your life for your entire life, because I know some people that just live off credit cards for everything, and I may not know their personal financial story, but it doesn't always look good from the it does look good from the outside, but it might not look good from the inside and what they're dealing with credit card debt and maxing those cards out. So if you are doing that from month to month, I would not recommend it.
Yeah, you need to have some plastic surgery. That's what our good friend Dave Ramsey would say. So I have just a quick question for you, Luke. So should someone buy presents if they're in debt? What do you think?
Ooh, man. I would say you can buy a few presents because I think holidays, it's a good time where you do need to spend that, and I think especially those first few years of your life, you're probably going to be in debt somewhere, whether it's your house or maybe you have student loans or whatever. There's going to be debt there, but you do need to put aside some money to buy those gifts. So you don't want to make it a bad holiday for your kids or even for you and your wife or maybe your family, whatever it may be. You don't want to make it a bad holiday for everyone just because you're in debt. So don't go outrageous. Make sure you stick to your budget. If you are in debt, you do need to set a specific budget for your Christmas presents, and you cannot go away from that. So, but don't not buy Christmas presents because you're in debt. Make sure you're making the most out of those holidays. Just don't get too extravagant and build up even more debt by taking out loans for Christmas presents.
Yeah, I really like your answer there. I think the holidays are a special time, and we want to be able to experience that. And so, even if you are in debt, don't be, our message today wasn't to, go out and not spend any money over the holidays. It's to really just provide that structure in your life so you're not going out and overspending during the holidays.
Yeah, we want you guys to have the best holiday season. We wish you the best holiday season. We have Christmas and a New Year coming up here, so spend it with your family. Make sure you're present with your family and be around them. And not everything's materialistic, but it is fun to receive some gifts and get something every once in a while as well. So have a great holiday season. We also do want to mention this is our last show of the semester. We are taking Dead Week and Finals Week off. So this is our last show. We've done 10 episodes this semester, and we're hoping to come back next semester as long as everything works out for us. I'll be student teaching. I know Austin will be pretty busy with his final semester of college, but we're planning on coming back next semester. I would say kind of for a wrap-up, Austin, how have you liked doing this? What's kind of been the experience?
It's been incredible. Seeing our progress throughout the 10 shows that we've done. The first show, I was so nervous and the nerves were just flowing, but once we got talking and bouncing ideas back off each other, it really helped ease those nerves, and we were able to just have a conversation on air here. And then, of course, once we started opening it up to Facebook Live, that's probably been my favorite part. Yep. Just seeing our listeners out there giving us comments and likes and everything like that. So hopefully we are having an impact on our viewers and really making them think about a lot of things. So I guess just to wrap things up, what has been your favorite part of doing the show?
Yeah, I agree with you. It took off, and I mean, we always make jokes about having 12 viewers on Facebook Live or having 30 listeners on our SoundCloud or whatever it may be, but I've actually had a lot of people come up to me through breaks and just on campus and stuff and say, hey, I saw the radio show you guys are doing, that's pretty cool, and even people that listen that don't even attend UNK. I have some family members and stuff, and it was kind of a big topic of discussion at Thanksgiving about the show and stuff, but it's been a lot of fun, and like you said, it's nervous at first, but once you get rolling with it, it's a lot of fun. So I would encourage anyone that wants to start up any kind of show. I mean, it's educational. I've learned a lot just by teaching you guys about finances, and it's really going to help with being a business teacher in the future as well. So that's been some of my favorite takeaways, and I'm really glad we decided to do this, and I look forward to doing it next semester as long as we can get a good time slot that works out for the both of us. So that does it for this episode of the Weekly Allowance. It has been a pleasure being with all of you this semester, and we hope to continue doing this next semester. This is Santa and his elf signing off for 2018. But in the meantime, whether you are young or old, don't put your future on hold.